Before we go any further, I just want to check something. Are you an atheist?
For all practical purposes, yes. Nobody can actually say for certain that anything doesn't exist. But I'm an atheist in the same way as I'm an a-leprechaunist and an a-fairyist and an a-pink unicornist.
So you're not 100% sure God doesn't exist, but you're sure enough to make it practically...
I'm as sure as you are sure that fairies and leprechauns don't exist.
And do you see an equivalence between the idea of God and the idea of a fairy and a leprechaun?
The evidence for both is equally poor. It could be unique. It could be that life is only here.
Right.
And it would follow from that the origin of life on this planet was such a stupefyingly rare event that we're kind of wasting our time even thinking about how it happened.
Right. So if I say to you, don't do that to me. So if I say to you, you have faith that other life is out there, you're saying based on the evidence.
Well,
statistical evidence that there are billions of planets, but isn't it still a hypothesis because we don't know how that first molecule got here?
We don't know. I mean, it's hardly even based on evidence. It's a statistical calculation.
Right.
It's a kind of plausibility calculation.
Right. This is so cool to think about.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to get high later?
You think an atom has that?
According to Freeman Dyson, yes.
Freeman Dyson says an atom has awareness.
Yes, sir. Check it out.
Señoras y señores, un aplauso para...
If Freeman Dyson ever said atoms are aware, then he's wrong. I don't think he said it. I think he should sue you.
Wow.
I mean, do you actually believe in your Muslim faith? Do you believe that Muhammad split the moon in two? Do you believe that Muhammad flew to heaven on a winged horse, for example? I pay you the compliment of assuming that you don't.
No, I do. I believe in miracles.
You believe that?
Yes.
You believe that Muhammad went to heaven on a winged horse?
Yes, I believe in God. I believe in miracles. I believe in revelation. I mean, the point here is that let's assume I'm wrong, Richard. I'm wrong.
Let's.
Let's assume I'm wrong.
Our brains were sculpted by natural selection on the African plains to only perceive timescales of a very short order, of a few years, a few decades. Then, if you say that a star explodes once every 100 years or so in our galaxy, the number of centuries that our galaxy has been around is a very large number of centuries. And the number of centuries available for evolution to have taken place is extremely large. This is exactly as you say. One of the main reasons people don't understand evolution is that they cannot grasp the immensity of time that's been available. You sort of idiotic statements like, well, I'll believe in evolution when I see a monkey give birth to a human. I mean, I've seriously heard people say that.
Oh yes, so have I. In fact, I was going to ask you exactly that. What do you say to people? I was testifying in Texas to try and keep evolution in the schools there, and a woman got up and said, my grandfather wasn't a monkey. I said to her, well, in your case, it's not so clear, but.
Well, bad things that come out of science, if by that you mean horrible weapons.
Nuclear weapons, gas chambers, eugenics.
Weapons, yeah. These are terrible things which are technology that arises out of science, and it's certainly true that if you want to do terrible things with technology, with terrible weapons, for example, science is the best way to do it, because science is the best way to do anything.
I can have one last comment on Richard Dawkins. It'll be quick. I was in the back row as you spoke, and so I could see sort of the whole room as the words came out of your mouth, as beautifully as they always do, and as articulately as they always do. And let me just say, your commentary had a sharpness of teeth that I had not even projected for you. It's more. It was my first time meeting him, and so I felt you more than I heard you, and I asked the question. And it gets back a little to what Francisco was getting at. You're a professor of the public understanding of science, not professor of delivering truth to the public. And these are two different exercises. One of them is you put the truth out there, and like you said, they either buy your book or they don't. Well, that's not being an educator. That's just putting it out there. Being an educator is not only getting the truth right, but there's got to be an act of persuasion in there as well. Persuasion isn't always, here's the facts, you're either an idiot or you're not. It's here are the facts, and here is a sensitivity to your state of mind, and it's the facts plus the sensitivity, when convolved together, creates impact. And I worry that your methods and how articulately barbed you can be ends up simply being ineffective when you have much more power of influence than what is currently reflected in your output.
I gratefully accept the rebuke. Just one anecdote to show that I'm not the worst in this thing. A former and highly successful editor of New Scientist magazine, who actually built up New Scientist to great new heights, was asked, "What is your philosophy at New Scientist?" And he said, "Our philosophy at New Scientist is this: science is interesting, and if you don't agree, you can fuck off."
Okay, my last question. This is probably going to be the most simplest one for you to answer, but what if you're wrong?
Well, what if I'm wrong? I mean, anybody could be wrong. We could all be wrong about the flying spaghetti monster and the pink unicorn and the flying teapot. You happen to have been brought up, I would presume, in the Christian faith. You know what it's like not to believe in a particular faith because you're not a Muslim, you're not a Hindu. Why aren't you a Hindu? Because you happen to have been brought up in America, not in India. If you'd been brought up in India, you'd be a Hindu. If you were brought up in Denmark in the time of the Vikings, you'd be believing in Wotan and Thor. If you were brought up in classical Greece, you'd be believing in Zeus. If you were brought up in Central Africa, you'd be believing in the great Juju up the mountain. I mean, there's no particular reason to pick on the Judeo-Christian God in which, by the sheerest accident, you happen to have been brought up, and ask me the question, what if I'm wrong? What if you're wrong about the great Juju at the bottom of the sea?